during school times. Now you have more programs so that these girls can be involved, so that they can have something that they are doing more than just staying at home. Most of them, you find the best that they do is stay at home, maybe do the assignment, house chores, just in the home area. But if they are engaged, if there's something that they're doing, it makes them like have another, I'm lacking the word to use, but they'll do something else other than just staying there, because now that makes them more vulnerable. And I think the best thing is, just like all of us have said here, is something that we have to really involve the community, let them understand why it is wrong, because you find that many of them just, and I know, I don't know if, well, I know most of us have gone and heard that you're told that you do not have, the young girls, the boyfriends, if you're talking to men about child pregnancy, teen pregnancy, or if you're talking to boys just in general, they will see like, okay, let me use the exact words that I've ever been told. Unataka kutunyima girlfriends, like you're training these girls for them not to be our girlfriends, for them not to allow us to perpetrate them, in other words. But then you see, there is also something that I'm not sure how far the government is in. There was something about Romeo and Juliet relationships, because again, a 16-year-old and a 17-year-old, they might be in love, or a 13 and a 17. You see, those, both of them are children. And well, love is a big word, but that's their boyfriend. They're not going to stand in court and say that this person perpetrated me, this person raped me, because they were in agreement. They talked about it. They agreed. They were, so it's you just have to be very careful and take a wholesome approach, whereby you're accepting them to be children. You're accepting them to, quote unquote, date. They just have to now go into that relationship with information, so that if they decide to have sex, they know about protective measures, they know about this, they know about that. But you see, right now, all we're doing is abstain. We're telling them don't do this, but like we've all agreed, it's already being done. So I think we really need to also work with men, work with community. It has to be a wholesome approach. It really can't just be us talking to girls, because that is what most of us have been doing. And we've seen that, yes, we've talked to this girl, but they're not going to listen to us. They're going to listen to their boyfriends. They're going to listen to their partners, to their peers, more than they listen to us. So just making sure that we take it wholesomely and talk to these boys and tell them, you're destroying even your own life. We have people who've gone to jail because of, so just try and give them that information and let them make an informed decision out there. Yeah, so maybe that is what I can say that we can do as CSOs. And also just to our girls, we must ensure that we use all the information that we have. We try and demystify the myths that are there, that about, like our lady was sharing here about Coca-Cola and what we need to demystify, so that wajue, they watakunywa Coca-Cola na bado after miezi tisa they'll give birth, so we really need to give them the right information. We make sure that we champion for that. Yes, thank you, Tony. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Glenn, for that. So dear listeners, I just want you to tighten your belt a little bit and hold your tickets so that you can travel to Uganda and invite our brother Trevor. Trevor, between 2021 and 2022, nearly 1 in 4 girls aged between 15 and 19 had already begun childbearing, according to UNICEF. Trevor, what's happening? And where are we headed with this issue? Over to you, Trevor.
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. I hope I am audible. I've been having quite a bit of issues and I've been missing some of the submissions of the speakers, but those are really brilliant submissions. And again, I appreciate the conveners of this space for such a very wonderful discussion. Again, my name is Trevor Imogel. I am the Country Youth Coordinator, AHF Uganda Cares. and privileged to have this opportunity to share briefly. So, yes, in Uganda, the state of teenage pregnancy is really bad, and we have around 24. It varies between 24 and 25% of our teenage girls either being mothers or expecting. So it is, I think, one of the highest in the regions, or maybe the highest. And unfortunately, this is still something that we are grappling with. But I wanted to draw our attention to something critical, because when you look at the breakdown of the regions, we have areas that have as high as 35%, the rate of teenage pregnancy. Then we have areas where the rates were once high, but then they've dropped to around 10, 13%. So my point really here is that there are some interventions that have happened. There's some work that has been done in particular areas that has resulted in reduction of the teenage pregnancy levels that were once high. For example, if we look at our data, because we've been looking keenly at our data, you'll see that in some regions where we've seen better results, we will see that there was an increase in family planning, there was an increase in SRHR and HIV information being given around, a lot of information that is accurate, like the speakers have actually been sharing, an increase in family planning, there's been skilling, school programs have come up to support adolescents. So we've seen a mix of interventions that have worked in areas that have resulted in the reduction. But then in other areas, we'll still see that less has been done, or almost nothing has been done. But again, the question of culture is also still there, because you see in some areas it is actually the cultural norms that um, kind of force the girls to be, to get or something like that, because they make the girls feel like, oh, you're supposed to actually have a baby by this age. What are you still doing? So, yes, we are looking at such a situation. And mainly for me, for this discussion, I know teenage pregnancy can sound like a political issue, because one will need the system to, and one of our speakers has been sharing how the system at large is a perpetrator, and I totally agree with that. But then sometimes when it is a whole system, it leaves us a little bit helpless and feel like, okay, it's a whole system and maybe we're just organizations or young people. So for me, I'm thinking if we can break it down to look at what in our interventions have worked. For example, if your institution is big on family planning, you could look at an area and say, okay, we are targeting specific communities that have high teenage pregnancy, and maybe that would be an area that you'd focus on. Or if you have something that you're doing, menstrual hygiene is also a very big discussion. We have one of our programs called Girls Act that is big on addressing unplanned pregnancies among adolescent girls. It's actually in Kenya as well, and this is in Mombasa. And in Uganda we have it, and then in Tanzania it's just beginning. But mainly we are looking at how we can give information on SRH, promote family planning, and just ensure that we involve different stakeholders in the community, right? So looking at it at that broad, and looking at what we can do and see if we can scale up, and of course also invite other stakeholders, because we cannot do everything on our own, but invite other stakeholders to scale up what is working, and then what is not working, we either turn that down or ensure that we carry the interventions that are working well to other areas, so that we can have balanced progress on reducing teenage pregnancies. Otherwise, this is still a very serious issue that we are grappling with in Uganda, and I believe that with such discussions, we can be able to make some progress, and hope we have more stakeholders who need to listen to this joining into this call. Otherwise, thank you, Tony, and the conveners, Yanaso. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, fellow senior counsel, for just sharing your thoughts and insights about today's topic. So even as we take a little break and just breathe in and out, and I'm just hoping that Barry will be in a position to also contribute and speak up. I know Diana is joining us from the US, and unfortunately she's unwell, but she would have wished to also contribute. But colleagues, this is just one of the series that Africa and its partners has been hosting for the past few days, for the past few weeks. Reason being, Africa will be hosting a medical camp in the dates of 28th to 30th of August. And we are calling all of us to come in and support us in this cause. I'm seeing very powerful key players in the game. Peter Plift, I can see you. I can see my president is here, among other colleagues. We still request for your support. Please support our girls by even just buying for them a pack of a sanitary towel, even a box. And I'll read out, I'll read out the pay bill where you can just at least support us with whatever you are having. And the pay bill reads, I'm trying to look at it with Dr. Saman. The pay bill is 891,300. That is the pay bill. 891,300. And the account number is 116823. Allow me to repeat for the sake of ensuring that our girls and women are safe through your support for this medical camp. The pay bill is 891,300. Again, 891,300. And account number is 116823. 116823. I can see Lizzie, Trevor, and my other speakers are dialing the M-Pesa. Yes. Please support our girls, and let's see how best you can have this medical camp being a success. And now, once again, I want us to tighten our belt much tighter and tighter and hold our ticket, because we're not traveling far away to just listen into the global perspective of what we are discussing today. And I'm going to invite one of my key partners and key convener in this conversation, Mohammed Berry, to just share with us insight on how is it about teen pregnancy, and how is it being addressed in the US? Also, the issue of teen pregnancy and drop out of school for these women and girls. Berry, if you can hear me, take over the mic. Over to you, my brother.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me, Tony?
Yes, I can hear you, sir.
Okay, I'll give you my brief perspective on this, since I work with a lot of, not a lot, but I come across some teenage pregnancy cases here. So I want to say that there are some common things between USA, for example, and Kenya. If we just want to zero in on those two countries and do like a little comparison, teen pregnancy has been steadily decreasing since the 90s, because a lot of interventions, and USA has done a lot of things to reduce that. But it's still, teen pregnancy is still the leading cause of school dropout here, just like in Kenya. So, for example, 50% of teen mothers in the US receive the high school diploma by 22. And if you compare that to teens who do not become pregnant, 90% of them receive the high school diploma. So there is like a stark difference between the number of young women who continue on and receive their education versus those who become pregnant early on in their lives. And I've seen dramatic cases in my work here when I respond to emergencies. In a young mother with Detroit, for example. Detroit is one of the poorest cities in America, and you can kind of see, if you look a little bit in the suburbs of the city, you can kind of see the contrast between the poor and the affluent citizens. So even though the state of Michigan has employed some some interventions in some ways to reduce it. I can give you some examples. Uh, you still see some cases of teenage pregnancy. It wasn't totally eradicated, and I think poverty is a major contributor to that, and I've seen it firsthand because sometimes there are systematic issues where someone is in a position where they can't do anything about it. Believe it or not, they become pregnant because there is no support system. The community around them doesn't help them, and they lack the education and they probably live in a zip code where uh, there is no SRHR education enough to help them circumvent those issues. And we still have STDs in the USA. Um, so if we compare it to Kenya, I can see some parallels. I could definitely see some parallels, but I think in Kenya it's more exacerbated because the programs that are employed by the or implemented by the state um, are not maybe do not exist to the same extent as in um, do not exist in Kenya to the same extent as they exist in the USA. You know, and it's very tragic to hear those numbers and those statistics from all the fellows that were talking before me. And it's one of the things we focus on at CDI because I think if you fix the systematic reasons behind things like that, you can rescue an entire generation. You can fix one or two things. Sometimes simply by just educating the youth. Telling her what she should and should not do in order to avoid a major problems in the future. You know, and like someone said before me, because there is a shortage in education, sexual education, the youth don't know better, and they end up in this very bad position with children, and then they have to drop out, and then they have to work menial jobs to support their children. So it's very tragic, and hopefully we can do something about it. And with our collaborations, we can do some outreach in Kenya and see how we can make a difference and move the needle. Back to you, Tony.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks so much, Barry, for sharing that context. Because it was very important for us to have the global view, even as we narrow down to Kenya and the regions within Kenya. So Barry, even as you mute your microphone, we recognize the fact that CDI is also doing a lot when it comes to addressing these issues, and even to the partnership that has been sealed between CDI and Africa and Najimudu, among other partners, is looking into doing this to a more bigger spaces and bigger level to ensure that our women and girls are safe. Now, something quite interesting, and for this, allow to once again bring Lizzie on the spotlight. One of the listeners just inboxed me, something very interesting, and the colleague will appreciate if this is handled. Now, listen to this. BBC Africa ran a story late last night, and it was so sad to see very young girls being exploited for sex. The youngest I saw was 13, and I was shocked. Now, this is the question from our colleague. Lizzie, I hope you're on. How can you ensure that reporting cases, sexual exploitation of teens, does not put the victims in further danger? Lizzie, over to you.
That's a great question, because safety and security of the minor is actually key priority, and that actually is kind of works quite well with the partners that we work with around sexual reproductive health, and of course when it comes to rights and etc. So what we've realized is, you might have found that people would have actually flagged this off to the authorities, like your local police station etc, and then nothing happened, right? And we do have a lot of instances where, forget about them being exploited, there's also like kids being married off because it's cultural, and girls are most of the time are looked at like a source of income. So once they have their periods, then it's time for them to be shipped off and be married off to the husband. So a lot of these cases usually arise, and a lot of these cases you find the mothers or the aunties report them, but nothing normally happens. So this is where we have the human rights institutions coming in, the ones who will defend you when the police decide, maybe to take a bribe or not to do anything about it, because they're also not so sure whether it's the the custom um, law or the traditional law, or it's going to be the constitutional law that's going to come into place. So that's why we always work with national human rights institutions. Now, because we call them NHRIs, because NHRIs are fully supported by governments, a lot of people assume that they're going to be taking the sides of the government, and that's usually not the case. It's a misconception and a lot of misinformation circulating about the power and mandate of human rights institutions. So if you feel like there's a case you want to report, you're listening in, or you're working with such a case and you don't know where to address your grievances, please reach out to ENASO. You can write to us directly, enaso@enaso.org, and we can connect you to a local national human rights institution. And the beauty is we work with the African umbrella. That's the networks of human rights institutions. They're based and headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya. And if your NHRI is also a little bit slow with the case, which is usually not the case, but they're a little bit slow, we can take it up with the umbrella that's making sure that they do their mandate, which is to protect the rights of everybody, every human being. So we've seen a lot of cases like that. Exploitation, you find even the parents are involved at times. So when the mother and the father are involved into exploiting the kid, it becomes also a very challenging situation, which a lot of police stations and local officers will not want to deal with directly. But that's where organizations like your human rights institutions come in. So there's always a way out of it. So I will reiterate that, Tony, if they need assistance or there's a case, because just the other day somebody reached out to me via WhatsApp that there's a lady who's going to be married off. She's not ready for it, even though she was going to turn 18. She felt like she really just wanted some sort of help because she wanted to finish school. So we do direct such kind of cases, but you have to go to a local authority. And the minute they don't do anything, we will get the human rights institutions to intervene. But always, always make sure you've reported there's a case, you've been given an OB or something. And if you see they're dilly-dallying or they just don't want to do anything about it, reach out. I'll stop there, Tony.
Yeah, Lizzie, that brings me to even that brings it back to even the case that I had. Some 2 days back, I also received a call of a 9-year-old who was defiled by an uncle, and I think I've been handling so many of these cases until sometimes it gets really emotionally overwhelming, because it pains a lot. Because even you listeners in this call, you know very well that your uncles, cousins, brothers take advantage of the young girls within the community, and yet you're the ones who are not reporting these cases. The question is, what role are you playing as an individual to ensure the safety of the young girls in the community? And how do you report these cases? Because that's also a gap that we tend to face. So I know Glenn wants to drop off. Glenn, can you just make us like maybe your final statement in line with the reporting of these cases, and please just speak it on point. Just call a spoon, kindly. The reality. Over to you, Glenn.
Okay, thank you so much, Tony, and apologies, I have to leave. I have another engagement. So, reporting. So this is a very tricky state, because according to the law, according to everything that has been set, we have the guidelines of what should be done. But I'll speak about the reality of the community where I live in. Many of the cases that are defilement cases, do not get to even get to the court, or if they do, then they get we were speaking with someone today and they told me that a rapist has been released or with a bond, and I know the lawyers, the people who understand the laws of the country, those are not cases that should be that someone can be released by bond. So there's a lot of frustration, there's a lot of resource that you'll need for you to even get justice. It's a very long process. So even most of this survivors, CSOs, we don't like to call them victims, but most of them do not really like going the low way, because again, it's very frustrating. But I think also some do not even know that the law actually can govern them. So I think we need to do a lot of sensitization of the communities about the reporting of these cases. And we also have the gender desk, and I think that is something that we can really use because of the you get that going to report a case in the police station, just like the other cases, is quite intimidating at times. So maybe taking the way of the gender office, which are also in the police station, is also a good way. And I think it's very important for us to just give full information about this. These cases. Teenage pregnancy, like we said, there are others that are not even perpetrators. There are those that, well, they're not forceful. Rape by definition is forceful, but they're not forceful. They all came into an agreement. So we really need to have an understanding, to ensure that the whole community understands what this is, and also for them to allow the teen moms to be integrated back to the community, because I mean, it's already happened. Just having the stigma and everything around it, I know the mental health practitioners here will say that many of them, and even Susan and all the others who have gone through it, will tell you it's very hard for you to be a teen mom, because of course the school has allowed you to come in, but how your fellow girls will be looking at you, how the community and the society is perceiving you, is a whole other case. So you find many of them will even choose not to go to school, because I mean, why would they go to school and experience all that? So yes, I think that is all I am going to say for now. Thank you so much, Tony, for this opportunity, and to my fellow speakers. It's been amazing to just hear the vast knowledge from all over the world about this case. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
All right, thank you so much, Glenn, and we're looking forward to having you guys joining us for the medical camp in 2 weeks' time, and even having your support. Remember, just buy that girl a pad, or even support that girl or that boy with an inner pant, and even more. The pay bill is simple. The pay bill is 891300, 891300, and the account number is 116823. At least by the end of this call, let's at least have something for the girls, even as we wait for the medical camp. I know, Susan, you're also somewhere, and you're about to drop off. Maybe your last words as we even roll on to closing. Susan, over to you.
All right, thank you once again, Tony. I believe much has been said by the speakers who have gone before me, but my message to each and everyone in this space is let us extend grace to the young mothers, because one, they are going through a lot of trauma, pain, shame, guilt, and if we are the ones who will not create a safe space, then imagine how this is going to be for them, because most of them are young, they've dropped out of school, probably they are in abusive relationships, nyumbani wamefukuzwa, wameambiwa enda kwa ule ambaye amekupatia mimba, and you find that they live in so much guilt. Like I'll just give you an example. Last weekend we had our support groups with the young mothers, and there are girls who just joined in, they've not been part of the program.
And even before we started talking about how best to support them to reintegrate them back to the community, it came out clearly that supporting them psychologically and helping them build back their confidence and self-esteem is very important, because yes, utasaidia huyo msichana na pads to ensure that they don't have a repeat pregnancy, or you give them diapers, you take them back to school, but mentally, psychologically, where are they? So many of them want to give their children the best, but anytime they think of the guilt and the shame that they have gone through, it breaks them completely. So let us create safe spaces, allow them to tell their stories, let us listen to them, because chances of a repeat pregnancy among the teenage mothers are very high, because you'll meet with someone who will tell you that they were looking for survival for their kids, they were looking for validation, they were looking for someone to remind them that they still have a second chance in life, and whoever they meet along the way, they give in. They give in to be able to at least have a source of livelihood and take care of their children. So I would like to mention that. And also, when it comes to the government, I know there's the return to school policy, which as we speak right now is not favorable for teenage mothers who dropped out of school, because the curriculum, the system has changed from 844 to the CBC. So assuming somebody who dropped out of school when they were in Form 2, where do they even pick it up from? I know we are told that there is adult education, but this is a special category. Most of the classes that happen in the adult education only accommodates adults who are older. So now what do we do with these young girls who really want to go back to school but cannot be reintegrated back into the normal education system? And lastly, for those who are not in a position to go back to school, maybe because of shame, how do we as people who are working in this space ensure that the teen mothers have access to skills and livelihoods? Because you will have a girl coming to the program offering psychosocial support, but the question is always, when they go back to school, when they go back at home, what are they going to give their children? So promoting their livelihoods is also very important, and involving the whole community to just end the stigma and stop normalizing early pregnancies. And above all, lastly, is to have as many male champions as possible, because they are the perpetrators. So if we make men understand the consequence that teenage pregnancy has, not just to the girls but to the whole community, then they become the champions into ending this. If they find themselves in a situation where a young girl is forced into such a situation, they're able to speak up and speak against it. But above all, I am really grateful, Tony, for this opportunity. We are looking forward to continue having this conversation. And yes, if you're having any opportunities to engage more on how to prevent, to reintegrate, and to empower young women as inspired teenagers, we'll be happy to engage in that. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much, Susan. And one of the engagement that we're having is the upcoming medical camp, and I know I've been singing about it. And first of all, look here, I see Leah has supported us. Thank you so much, Leah, for your support. I can also see someone has also supported like 10 girls with some good sentiment. Thanks so much, someone, for that, and Leah. So even as you wait for more support from you colleagues, I want to invite Joseph to come on board in 1 minute to just give us what he has, and then to proceed as we roll down to closing. Joseph, if you can hear me, the mic is on you. Joseph Masharia. Okay, Joseph will have to.
Perhaps he could unmute his mic.
Okay, proceed. Yusuf, please proceed.
Oh, I was asking him to unmute his mic in case it was muted.
Oh yeah, I think Yusuf, we can't hear you. Okay, allow me give Fly High to speak in 1 minute. Fly High, proceed.
Tony, thank you so much, and everyone else. I hope you can hear me. I think
Perfect.
having worked in this sector, thank you. So having worked in this sector, what I would say is that we are in some sort of like a perfect storm where we've got, number one, there's defunding. So we've got lesser resources to work with. We've also got a growing population of young people, and especially girls. And we also have a situation where, especially here in Kenya, the typical structures that would allow a girl to transition effectively from one level of education to another have been interrupted. And on top of that, there's less economic opportunities, and also it's also not very easy for people, just teenagers in general, just people who are post high school, to be able to continue with their education to higher level or begin fully engaged, either through education or economically. So this now portends a situation where we have to find unique solutions to be able to relieve the situation, because life is still going to continue happening. We're still going to get more people leaving school. We're still going to get more situations where where these young ladies and young men can engage in sex and then potentially get unplanned pregnancies. So I love something that that Trevor said about interrogating interventions that have worked. And I have the feeling that in being able to look at what has worked in the various areas in our various countries, we might find lessons that we can glean from and perhaps implement. I think for me, one of the things that I'm cognizant of is that initially, before we went to very data-driven and very data-driven programming, we initially had behavior change initiatives, and these ones did not really demand so much money, or they're not very resource hungry or resource intensive. And I have the feeling that if we can go back also to creating appropriate messaging for the young people that we are working with, and also their families, and also society in general, we might be able to somehow limit, or at least how we say in Swahili, kudhibiti, may be able to at least reduce the potential instances of teen pregnancies. One of the things I know is that because I began my sexual and reproductive health career as a peer educator, and one of the things that I realized is that peers will listen to each other a lot more. So I think it's upon us now, within the context in which we find ourselves right now, East Africa and Africa, is that we're going to have to get very creative with our messaging. We're going to have to get on TikTok. We're going to have to meet the young people where they are and counteract these adverse messages that perhaps may be misleading them. And we're also going to have to perhaps even just look at how to work with even these organizations that we're seeing may be difficult to work with, such as churches. I think that one of the things I love about churches is that they have a very unique, devolved structure. Whatever church you look at, you'll always have these small groupings. And also women also meet quite a lot. So I think that if we can be able to find a way of delivering this messaging in a way that these religious institutions can also pick up and enhance without putting that strain of judgmental fundamentalism that churches have on the messaging, we may be able to at least help even these girls who are basically within the church context. Because if you look at what happens, a lot of girls who are within the church context tend to be very naive as to what is happening in life. And so this is what happens in life. They tend to be naive about matters of sexuality. And so sometimes we may not be able to reach them with messaging if you do like some of the concerts that we used to do or do. So it may be even easier to also find them with the messaging, even within the same church organizations that sometimes present such a challenge to us in terms of just delivering messaging. So for me, I think one, we need to glean from lessons learned, glean from former programs, learn or pick good lessons, implement this, meet the youth in the spaces they are in right now, which is primarily social media. Also, we need to also embrace partners that are not the typical partners that we've had. And four, we also need to look at, someone just mentioned the boy child. I think that including boys in this programming will also really, really help us, because at least being able to, being able to counteract some of the messaging that boys normally get, where these early sexual encounters are like a rite of passage for them. If we can be able to offer counter messaging that is actually positive and that dismisses such cultural or traditional messaging, I think we might end up with a situation where we're able to at least stem this flood that is coming our way. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thanks so much for your contribution. I see Daniel on deck. A minute, kind please. A minute, please. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Tony, and the group. I must say it's been lovely listening to you guys. Just told myself I'll take a back seat and just listen to us today. And I think I've had quite a lot to confirm that indeed we are quite passionate about what we're doing, and it's not something we take for granted. I just want to highlight a few things which I think you guys have said, but I just want to put some weight on some of the things that we mentioned. I think we've painted it clearly that teenage pregnancies are the leading cause of school dropouts among girls, and that does not limit it to just girls but boys too, because I know of situations where boys have had very young boys have had to drop out, and in quotes and quotes taking responsibility tried to somehow make amends for getting a girl somewhere pregnant and things like that. And I'm glad to see somebody like Kerry here, because we would talk policy time and again. And I'm also happy to see Michael here. I know Narok is something. Narok is quite something. I was looking at the stats the other day. I think Narok was leading, and I just want to appreciate that Michael is here and the good work he's doing through UNFPA. I was given a minute, so I'm gonna limit it to that. I think what I'm gonna say is this: as much as they've fought us, and you know who I'm referring to, when it comes to comprehensive sexuality education, let's not stop speaking that language, because that's what we need. Modern times requires modern solutions. We can't keep on allowing very, for lack of a better word, older people to still dictate how we are going to live our lives, or how the young people are going to live lives in the future. Youth-friendly health services, very important. Re-entry and retention policy is very important. So yeah, thank you so much, team. And I was really, let me say, appraised by so much that you guys are doing and what you guys have spoken. Asante.
All right. Thank you so much, Daniel. Once again, the pay bill is still working. Even as we deliberate through, let's also support this initiative of the Africa Medical Camp. And I'll repeat, the pay bill is 891,300 and the account number is 116826. Don't miss on the deck to support this kind of initiative. Whatever little that you have, please don't shy away from stretching a hand to support this medical camp. Now, I'm going to close this down by giving our speakers 1 minute each, please, and let it be 1 minute. If you go beyond that, I'm going to cut you short. So allow me to start with Michael Kshoyen. Michael, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Tony. I want to say that we have a collective responsibility to push for what is right and ensure that these young girls, the innocent young girls and boys, get access to youth-friendly services as far as sexual reproductive health is concerned. And I would like to wish us the best in everything that we are doing, the good work that we do. I I think I saw several young people doing good work, even all of us here, to push for sexual productive health among young people and adolescents. Thank you.
All right. Trevor, over to you. Trevor, I don't know if they've taken your mic away from me or you have it by you. Okay, allow me jump Lizzie for a minute. Let's go to Leah, your last statement as we close.
Thank you, Tony. Much has been said by my fellow speakers, but then something that rings or sits with me is we live in a patriarchal society. So it's high time, even for the men, and on this call, as we exit or even as we go back to our communities, let's also think of redesigning ABYM programs, the young men engagements program, because even for us as women, we fight for our place every day, every minute. So I want to give them the assignment as we walk out. But then my last call is, even as we curate and design programs that center adolescents, let's bring them to be co-creators of solution, because we can only design with them and not for them. Yeah. And lastly is, let's all synergize and use our spaces to amplify in every spaces, regardless of how small it might look to you. It may not be small, because we are 70 billion, I guess. So you can imagine, if we leave that work just to advocates or even to CSOs, then we might be piling up crises, and also considering the fact that we are being defunded. So let's use our voices, and also let's amplify. Back to you, Tony.
All right, thank you so much. I'm just learning that the speakers are not encouraging others to support the African Medical Camp. You guys, you're not doing me well. Oh. Anyway, all right, Kerry, over to you. 1 minute.
Thank you, Tony. I was avoiding to check the bill because you would miss me on my 1 minute, but I'll be sharing in a bit. Thank you so much for the discussion. My clarion call to all the CSO actors in here is that we can we try to focus a lot of our interventions on prevention rather than response. I feel like that is the way to go, and with candid emphasis on movement building. I'm glad to see so many partners with Africa coming on board. That is the way to go. Let us focus a lot of our interventions around prevention for those of us working in policy, service provision, community outreaches. And just like Dan has said, let us continue speaking the CSC language, because we do not have the option of giving up. Thank you.
All right. I hope now the last speaker will motivate others to support the medical camp. Now, Lizzie, even before you close, I know next week we want to have this kind of a series because I know Africa and also and other partners, we are planning to have conversation around the International Youth Day, and that is in the limelight. So we encourage all of us to stay tuned, so that in case we'll be having such a conversation, we invite all of us to join in so that we can amplify our voices further. So, Lizzie, I'll invite you for your last words. I know Berry she is engaged in another conversation. So, Lizzie, over to you.
Great, thank you, Tony. Yes, and please let's support Tony's initiative. They say it's not your friends who support your business; it's usually acquaintances and within your network. So let's do that. Now, using my 1 minute, I'll even use less than it. We made a mistake. We let the government defund the health budget. We let them cut the health budget, and that was a big mistake that we all did. And I'm hoping that, given that we're going to celebrate and commemorate International Youth Day, that we might see, you know, the way we came out to the streets with the Gen Z movement, we could see Gen Zs also trying to fight for their health rights. And we're hoping that this will not happen again. It's happened, but let's see how we are going to make sure it does not happen again. Defunding health is crippling an entire nation, and we're going to face the consequences sooner rather than later. But yes, do support Tony's initiative and looking forward to hosting you. If you would like to speak, comment, or co host the International Youth Day discussion, please feel free to reach out to Tony. Thank you, Tony.
All right, thank you so much, Lizzie, for the kindness of reminding our great people to support the African Medical Camp, and because of the love that we have as friends, allow me to repeat the pay bill that I'll not mention names, to just write it down and maybe wire support in a few. So the pay bill once again is 891300. For those who are using M-Pesa, it is 891300, and then the account number is 116823. If you want to use PayPal, you can use tonyolela@gmail.com. TONNY olela@gmail.com. That PayPal will gracefully accept your kind contribution. Now, as you close down on this conversation, teen pregnancy and school dropout in Africa requires a youth-led and right-based approach. Because I believe that when young people are meaningfully engaged and empowered with knowledge, resources, and even supportive policies, these young people can be powerful agents of change and even breaking cycles of poverty, in achieving gender equality and even building a healthier and more inclusive future. And that solely speaks to our theme of this year's medical camp, co-convened by Africa, CDI, Najimudu, among our great powerful partners, where we're looking at from awareness to action, health, dignity, and hope for a brighter future. Even as we roll down today to close this conversation, I want to appreciate all of us for the patience and listening in to what our speakers had to share today. For I believe at a personal level that the smallest act of kindness is worth more than the greatest intention. So if we become so kind enough to support each other intentionally through this co-designing, co-creating programs, I'm very sure that we are going to build a strong nation. And building a strong nation starts by supporting our initiatives and standing together in this process. Otherwise, I want to thank you all. I want to thank all of you for joining this conversation. The numbers have spoken, and we've linked numbers to facts and the realities. Be that voice that the community needs. Be that change, and it starts with you. Once again, Africa is happy to invite all of you in Sia County on the dates of 28th to 30th August for the Africa Free Medical Camp, where we believe that small act of kindness is worth more than greatest intentions. Otherwise, thank you so much, and have a lovely week ahead of you. And guys, happy new month. Thank you so much. Bye.